Hey, y'all, welcome back to Mountain Murders. Ha ha!
We want to bring you a podcast.
I'm Dracula.
Dracula?
Hey, y'all.
Were you a country vampire?
I'm Dracula.
One of them vampires?
Yep.
Hey, welcome back.
I'm one of them blood-sucking IRS agents.
Oh.
Yeah.
God, nobody likes them.
The true vampires. Dylan.
Hey, Heather.
It's post-Halloween Mountain Murders.
Yeah, you know what that means.
Boo.
50% off at the E-Spirit store.
The E-Spirit.
Or the
You... What?
Spirit Halloween.
Oh my gosh. I know. I'm about to go down there and check it out.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of stuff I want. So, that's where I go buy my seasonal wardrobe.
Gosh, I hadn't thought about that brand in a long time.
It was
what?
actually called Esprit.
Esprit,
It's
yeah.
E-Spirit.
You're welcome.
He's from Shelby, North Carolina, y'all.
That's right.
All right. I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
I'm not really Dracula today.
No, I know she had you fooled.
I wish I could be.
And here we are on a little bit of a kind of a bonusy episode.
A bonusy episode.
We're doing one last installment in the spooky season. Heather had one more wonderful topic for us to talk about. And yeah, let's do it.
Dylan, are you feeling ghoulish today? Ghouls. Grave robbing,
oh gosh,
also known as tomb raiding, has a long and often morbidly fascinating history, spanning various cultures and time periods. While it evokes images of ghoulish figures digging up coffins in dark cemeteries, the practice has far deeper implications in the field of archaeology, medicine, and even societal norms. So are you ready for a Mountain Murders historical account of grave robbing?
Yeah.
Now, Dylan, do you know a lot about grave robbing?
Well, I know what it is. It's when you dig up a grave or enter a tomb or anything like that, and you remove items of value or perceived value from there. You're stealing from the dead, because a lot of people are buried with items that mean a lot, special items, family heirlooms, if you will, sometimes.
Dylan's going to be buried with a pack of Marlboro Lights.
No, I don't hardly smoke cigarettes anymore.
Well, I'm going to put it in your grave.
Wow.
Actually, that's a lie because I'm going to have you cremated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I go up and smoke. The irony.
Then I can take you everywhere.
Yeah.
I'll take your urn out to dinner.
You could sprinkle me all places.
Where would I sprinkle you?
Sprinkle me everywhere. All the cool places.
At the QT?
Yeah. Over there by the hot dogs.
The QT. I was going to say, we're at the QT parking lot? Where you sit and eat your hot dog?
Just wherever you go, just have a little shaker of Dylan. A little Dylan shaker. And they'll be like, what are you doing? I'll be like, hey, just putting a little Dylan over here.
Oh, man, I could sell Dylan shakers.
Yeah.
To our listeners.
Yeah, you can put some of my ashes in there.
Profit off your death.
Well, you should.
I know. Should get something out of this.
I wonder if people would buy me.
I don't know. If you would buy Dylan, let us know. mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com.
I bet they will.
One of the most well-documented examples of grave robbing occurred in ancient Egypt, where tombs filled with gold, jewelry, and other riches were often targeted. Despite the Egyptians' elaborate burial rituals aimed at preserving the dead and their possessions for the afterlife, tomb raiding was a persistent problem. The Valley of the Kings, home to the tombs of pharaohs and nobles, saw numerous robbers and breaches over the centuries. Some of these tomb robbers were locals who knew the intricacies of the tomb construction, and many were caught and faced harsh punishments.
Well, yeah, see, in the instances of these pharaohs and Egyptian kings and such, you didn't wonder if there were riches in the tombs. You knew there was.
I must say, the Egyptian burial rituals, these tombs, is so fascinating. I would love to visit Egypt.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing.
Wouldn't you love to go see the Sphinx and these pyramids? I mean, for me, that would be like a bucket list.
They had to lie.
Travel destination.
They had to lie about King Tut's tomb having never been entered, or the only way they would allow them to proceed is if there was already evidence of grave robbing, basically, or tomb raiding. And they lied and said that there was, even though there wasn't. So they could, eventually, go into the tomb.
Are we talking about the real King Tut or the Steve Martin King Tut?
The real King Tut, whose mommy actually had an erect phallus.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, and they're not sure if that was done to as a sign of very macho. He was such a man, or kind of a slap in the face, by the people who prepared his body.
Oh.
Who wasn't that into
I
him.
thought you meant like to slap somebody in the face.
Come on, Heather. We're talking about history.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, I'm sure the Egyptians had a sense of humor. They were probably making dick jokes.
Well, obviously, they had the mummy with a erect phallus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So in China, the tombs of Chinese emperors and nobility, particularly during the Han and Tang dynasties, were also frequent targets. Filled with jade, silk, and other luxury items, these tombs were attractive to looters. In some cases, tombs were booby-trapped or built with deceptive layers to prevent robbers from accessing the true burial chamber. Grave robbing was noted in classical antiquity, albeit less systematically than in Egypt. Greek and Roman graves were occasionally looted for valuables, although the concept of desecrating graves for material gain was often seen as a religious offense in these cultures. Then we've got the medieval period, Dylan. During the medieval period, grave robbing became somewhat less common due to religious beliefs that saw the desecration of graves as an abominable act. However, there were exceptions, particularly when it came to saints and relics. A peculiar form of grave robbing called fortia sacra, holy theft, you can tell I didn't take Latin, involved stealing relics of saints from one monastery to another, often under the belief that the relics would bring blessings or miracles. Isn't that what Indiana Jones is about? People be looting like the Holy Grail and shit.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. You just wrapped them all up.
While looting for valuables continued sporadically, a more macabre form of grave robbing developed, the stealing of corpses for their supposed magical properties. For example, the body parts of saints were believed to hold miraculous powers and could be stolen to grant favors or serve in rituals.
See, if someone truly is a saint, then you probably shouldn't be messing with their body after they pass away, right? I mean, that's the way I look at it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't want St. Christopher's toenails.
Well, I don't want any body parts I don't know. I take that back.
You want some body parts?
Maybe just the bones.
Would you have a human skeleton?
I would like to have just a hand and a skull.
Okay. Interesting.
If I could can you get those legally? We've talked about this before. We need to look.
You always ask me questions that I don't know the answer to. The Renaissance and the Age of Enlightenment spurred an increased interest in the human body and medical science. However, laws restricted the availability of cadavers for dissection. This led to the rise of resurrectionists or body snatchers who would dig up fresh graves to provide corpses to medical schools and private doctors. And we're going to talk about a pretty famous body snatcher.
Yeah,
in a few minutes.
This led to a lot of grave robbing because they were, you had to come up with a lot of bodies to supply this new demand in learning about the medical sciences.
In the 18th and 19th centuries, body snatching became so rampant in Britain that it led to public outcry and the eventual passing of the Anatomy Act of 1832. Before the act, medical schools had few legal ways to obtain cadavers for anatomical study, relying mostly on the bodies of executed criminals. The demand far outstripped supply, leading to the lucrative black market trade in stolen corpses. And like I said, we're going to talk about that a bit more here in a few minutes. Resurrectionists would often work in teams, with one as the lookout while others dug. They were careful not to steal any valuables to avoid being charged with grave robbery, which carried more severe penalties.
We just took the body.
Instead, they focused on the bodies themselves, which could be sold for a significant sum to surgeons and medical schools. The most notorious case involved William Burke and William Hare in the 19th century. This was in Edinburgh, Scotland. Rather than just robbing graves, they escalated to murdering 16 people and selling the bodies to Dr. Robert Knox, a prominent anatomist. This led to the term burking being coined, meaning to kill for the purpose of selling the body.
Now, these guys they're entrepreneurs.
They are.
So they're bringing the freshest of all corpses to the doctors, right?
Yeah, they're
because
organic, fresh.
They're killing the people right
fair
outside.
Trade.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They're not ethnically ethically.
Yeah, they're not ethically sourced.
Excuse me. Ethically,
this is unfair traded parts.
Yeah, these are blood bodies.
Oh, okay. Yeah. In some parts of Europe, it was believed that body parts held magical or medicinal powers. Body parts like hands, known as Hand of Glory, were believed to have magical powers, and skulls were used in rituals. The notion of grave robbing in medieval and early modern Europe was also linked to social status. Robbing the graves of the wealthy was sometimes seen as a means of wealth redistribution, even though it was an illegal one. The 18th and 19th centuries also saw a surge in archaeological grave robbing driven by European colonial expansion.
This is one of our cleanest episodes.
See, now you've got me thinking about hard-ons.
Yeah.
Indigenous burial sites, such as Native American mounds, were looted for their artifacts and remains, which were sent to museums or private collectors. The desecration of such graves often disregarded the cultural and spiritual significance to the indigenous communities. In the early days of archaeology, the line between legitimate excavation and grave robbing was thin. The famed archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann, who excavated the ruins of Troy, was accused of damaging historical sites in pursuit of treasure. These practices have led to modern-day ethical questions about the repatriation of artifacts and remains to their rightful descendants. Now, the modern era has brought stricter laws and better technology to prevent grave robbing. Government and cultural heritage organizations worldwide have enacted legislation to protect archaeological sites and burial grounds. For example, the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation. That's it.
Okay.
I don't have my glasses on right now. Sorry.
It's okay.
Also known as NAGPRA in the United States, aims to return indigenous remains and artifacts to their communities. I really should have my glasses on.
Yeah.
This is like a feat trying to read, and I don't have them on. Okay. Sorry, I'm blind. Despite these legal protections, grave robbing has not disappeared. The black market for antiquities and relics remain robust, fueled by private collectors and unregulated markets. Tomb raiding continues in such regions rich with ancient history, like Egypt, where economic hardship has driven some locals to loot in hopes of making a profit. The romanticized or sinister image of grave robbing has permeated literature and media. From Mary Shelley's Frankenstein to the character of the
the
archaeologist treasure hunter in films like Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Or the mummy, the theme of uncovering bodies and artifacts for various motives remains a pretty popular trope. Sorry, I'm not as caffeinated and blind as I should be. Modern archaeologists and historians have worked to distance themselves from grave robbing practices of the past, aiming to approach ancient sites with more respect and scientific vigor. So modern cases of grave robbing are not as frequent as they once were in past centuries, thanks to these stringent laws, improved cemetery security, and cultural awareness. However, they still occur for a variety of reasons, including theft, illegal trade in human remains, and sometimes even ritualistic practices. Grave robbing today often manifests in the form of archaeological site looting, particularly in areas rich in ancient history like Egypt, Greece, Peru. Tomb raiders target these sites to find valuable artifacts, which are then sold on the black market. For instance, during the Arab Spring in 2011, the political instability in Egypt led to the increased looting of ancient sites, with reports of gangs raiding tombs and museums for gold, relics, and antiques. The black market for antiquities is thriving, fueled by wealthy collectors and under-regulated online sales platforms. Artifacts looted from graves are smuggled across borders and sold to private buyers or less scrupulous dealers who claim not to know their origins. International efforts to curb this, such as the UNESCO conventions, work to limit trade of such artifacts, but it can be a pretty difficult, enforcement can be pretty difficult.
Well, yeah, because a lot of these, even the, well, see that, are any of these artifacts acquired in the right way? You know what I'm saying? So you have
that is the question.
Because early on, when they really did, were kind of the heyday of archaeological sites and digs, and people finding all these things, and just because you want to make a museum about someone or their culture, what gives you the right to take their ancestors' artifacts and property and put it in your museum? And how did you come about those pieces? Who was paid for them? Who benefited? Who profited? So yeah, I mean, it really puts all of it into question in my mind.
Cases of individuals robbing modern graves for valuables like jewelry or gold teeth have been reported in various parts of the world. For instance, in the early 2000s, thieves in the United States were found stealing headstones and valuables from cemeteries, sometimes even desecrating burial sites to obtain precious metals. This practice is especially likely in an economically depressed region or in cases involving individuals with substance addiction who are looking for items to pawn.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you're stealing somebody's granny's gold ring so you can go buy meth, that's your rock bottom. That should be your rock bottom, right?
You should be in a circle with a therapist talking about that. And then that's when I knew I was at my rock bottom. I'm digging up graves to score a gold bracelet to get a hit.
In Brazil, grave robbing and theft from cemeteries have been reported, particularly in poorer urban areas where criminal groups may target tombs and burial sites for jewelry or metal that can be sold. And then we've got trade in human remains. Grave robbing has continued in a more macabre form where human remains are stolen for sale to collectors, medical institutions, or for use in rituals. So that still goes on today. Some collectors are willing to pay significant amounts for skulls or complete skeletons. In 2017, a scandal emerged when human skulls and bones were discovered for sale on platforms like eBay. This drew attention to the illicit trade in human remains that persists, even with the regulatory oversight that we have in modern times. In Haiti, grave robbing has sometimes been linked to the practice of voodoo. Stories have surfaced over the years about grave robbing for ritualistic purposes where practitioners or opportunistic thieves steal bodies or body parts for these religious ceremonies or to create zombies.
Oh my gosh, zombies always come back to Haiti.
Although these accounts are often sensationalized, there are instances where authorities have discovered desecrated remains or removed remains. Can I just tell you a story about zombies really quick? When I said zombies, it popped in my head.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've talked about this before on the show. I worked in radio for some years. And when the owner, my boss, who's a prick, when he first bought the station, he hired this woman to be the program director. And she was from that small town, but had lived in like Charlotte and worked in radio or whatever. So she'd come home and he's like, okay, well, she's really experienced. She's been in a bigger market. Like, this will work out great. And then there were all these stories because she wasn't working there when I started. Maybe I shouldn't be telling this story, but it's kind of funny.
No, tell it.
So
if you shouldn't be telling it, you definitely need to tell it.
All of my coworkers would talk about her. And not bad. I mean, they liked her. Like, she was a likable person. I met her a few times. I thought she was fine. I mean, she didn't give me any reason to dislike her or anything. She seemed okay. But they said she was like an insomniac, right? And that my boss was like, yeah, I would come in, and she'd be here at like 5 a.m. and would say that she'd been here since like 1 a.m. because she couldn't sleep. And this kind of went on that she just wasn't sleeping and whatever. And finally, when they were like, well, what's going on with you? Like, why do you have such trouble sleeping? And you know what her answer was? zombies.
Oh, they're keeping her awake?
She had some kind of unhealthy infatuation or paranoia, I don't know, about zombies, and couldn't sleep because she literally thought there would be like a zombie apocalypse.
Oh.
And that she could be attacked.
And if she's awake,
in her
she's
sleep.
better prepared to...
And now when they told me this story, and I say they because I had multiple coworkers tell me about this, I didn't believe it. And I was like, y'all are fucking with me. Or as my son would say, you're pulling both my legs off.
Right.
Right. But no, I guess this was a legit fear she had.
It really was the zombies.
She was like deathly afraid of zombies.
Damn.
And really thought that if she went to sleep, she could be attacked by a zombie.
Well, she wanted to be ready at all times
I guess.
to run from zombies.
So I had to tell that story.
Okay.
It just popped in my head. I hadn't thought about it in a long time.
All right.
But my boss used to go, zombies.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
I mean, I guess it's a real thing.
Zombies or the being afraid of zombies?
Both.
Yeah.
The fear of zombies is real.
So what do you think about all this grave robbing? You think it's ghoulish and gross and desecrational and all that? I know desecrational is not a word, but you know what I mean.
It's fine. I can't speak.
That's fine.
I can't speak American today either. I guess I have different opinions on it.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I do think, okay, there is part of me that's like, that is very ghoulish and creepy. But maybe not so much like like, oh, this is terrible for the dead. They're dead. They don't know.
Right.
Right? I mean, I guess families have more of an emotional, it's more emotional for the families to know that your loved one
has been disturbed.
Has been grave robbed.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the body doesn't care. You know, it doesn't know. It doesn't have
Well,
a clue.
I know, but if I give my honest opinion, like, and say, well, you know, I mean, I think it's not okay. I mean, it's never okay to steal and...
Well, no.
But I guess, you know, to be like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing that could happen. I mean, I'm kind of like, you know, they're dead. They don't know.
Well, you know, all that funerals.
But
and,
to what end, I guess, is my...
all the hoopla around funerals and all that is for the surviving family.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's to help.
Well, I just have
them.
really different, I guess, views on death than a
Well,
lot of people.
I think what you're
I'm
trying to articulate
I'm not very sentimental.
is you view it in a very biological way.
I do, yes. That's a great way to...
It
Thank
is
you.
just a body now. It's not much different in your mind than any animal you might see in nature. And all the energies left that body.
No, it's just over there stinking.
And now it's just a organic situation happening.
Yeah.
And you're going to go back to dust, right?
Yeah.
Just regular dust, not even like spiritual dust.
All we are is dust in the wind.
And that's true, right?
Kansas said it best.
Now, I wouldn't have to worry about anybody robbing my grave.
Well, like I said, you'll probably only be buried with a pack of Marlboro Lights. It's the only thing I can think of that would mean anything to you.
That's not even true. Again, this is all my life is amounted to. It's not even a carton of cigarettes, just one pack.
Yeah. Well, they're expensive.
She's like, you won't need all that.
Times are tough.
It is expensive.
I mean, what are you going to bury me with? Like a box of pizza?
No.
Like a large with sausage and green olives?
No.
Because that sounds amazing.
I would eat that. I would bury you with some of your boots and clothes.
Oh, will you bury me with Rufus?
No, he has a strong opinion against that.
No, I don't mean if he's alive.
Oh.
I just want to be with him.
No.
Can you have Rufus? Can you have us both cremated in our little ashes together?
Oh, I bet you can do that.
You can't. I love him so much.
I wonder if you can do that.
Look how cute he is.
I know. He always sleeps on the couch here in the studio while we work.
He's so sweet.
No matter how long we work, there he is.
In case I haven't made a daily declaration for y'all, I love my dog.
Yes.
Now, stealing religious relics from graves or church crypts has also occurred in modern times. While not always directly from grave sites, the theft of religious artifacts often stored with bodies of saints or historical figures can be seen as a form of grave robbing. Like, for example, in 2016, a thief stole relics containing the blood of Pope John Paul II.
Oh my God,
from a church in Italy.
They done cloned them.
Well, although not classic, I guess a classic case of grave robbing, Dylan, it demonstrates the continued interest in items related to the dead for their perceived value or power. Another aspect of modern grave robbing involves the theft of memorial plaques, statues, or headstones. While not directly linked to the deceased remains, these acts are considered grave robbery or desecration. The stolen materials, such as bronze or other metals, are often melted down and sold. Now, you asked about my opinion on, ethical concerns. So The line between archaeological research and grave robbing has become more defined over the past century, but there are still ethical gray areas. In the 21st century, indigenous groups and descendants of buried communities have increasingly protested the excavation and display of their ancestors' remains. Cases involving Native American graves in the United States have led to legal actions and repatriation efforts. The North American Graves Protection, that NAGPRA Act I mentioned earlier, was passed in 1990, was designed to return human remains and cultural items to tribes. However, illegal excavation and removal of remains still occur in more remote or poorly regulated areas. Well, Dylan, if we didn't have some of this, then obviously you wouldn't have those relics in museums. And as you said, I don't know about that. I see what you're saying. But at the same time, it's pretty cool when you get to go to a museum and see things.
Well, yeah, but it might not be cool to that family whose grandfather was buried with those items.
You mean like King Tut's ancestors?
Yeah.
They're pretty pissed off.
Well, they could be. They knew who they were.
Yeah, I know. It's just such a tricky area to get into. Some rare and disturbing cases, there have been occult and ritualistic practices. Reports from different countries indicate that individuals have stolen bodies or body parts to use in ceremonies or for black magic practices. And such cases are rare, but they do make headlines for their shocking nature. In 2015, police in South Africa arrested a group involved in the illegal trade of body parts, allegedly used in traditional medicine known as muti, which some people believe bring good fortune or power. Graves are desecrated to obtain the necessary ingredients, highlighting the ongoing challenges in combating superstitious beliefs intertwined with these criminal acts.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
You're going to ingest that?
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a good idea.
About two grave robbers that are pretty famous, especially in the world of true crime.
Okay.
Are you ready, Dylan? H.H. Holmes. Now, that is a name I think most true crime fans know.
The Murder Hotel.
He was born Herman Webster Mudgett and is most famously known as one of America's first serial killers connected to the notorious Murder Castle in Chicago during the 1893 World's Fair. While he is primarily remembered for his elaborate schemes involving fraud, murder, and the creation of his hotel designed with hidden passages and trapdoors, Holmes was also associated with grave robbing and body snatching, practices that complemented his larger criminal enterprise. Now, Holmes attended the University of Michigan Medical School, where he first encountered cadaver dissection and anatomy. This exposure played a role in shaping his familiarity with the human body and desensitization to death. Reports from his time as a student indicate that he may have been involved in stealing cadavers to resell them or use them for insurance fraud schemes.
Oh, wow. Like plant a body and that like somebody else got blown up or something?
Holmes used his knowledge of anatomy and willingness to handle bodies for financial gain. One of his schemes involved taking out life insurance policies on fictitious people, acquiring or using already deceased bodies, and then staging them as victims of accidents. This was a lucrative scam for him, as the policies would pay out substantial sums once the death was reported and verified.
Damn, that's a pretty smart one there.
While there is limited concrete evidence to detail Holmes' exact activities as a grave robber, it is widely believed that he engaged in the practice either directly or through hired assistants. His motive was typically financial. Cadavers stolen from graves were sold to medical schools or used as part of his insurance fraud schemes. This was not uncommon during the 19th century when the demand for cadavers was high and the legal sources were limited, as we mentioned previously. Holmes' time at the University of Michigan Medical School likely connected him to the practice of selling cadavers to medical institutions. During this era, grave robbers, and we mentioned they're also called resurrectionists, supplied these fresh bodies to schools for dissection and study. Holmes, with his medical training and lack of ethical boundaries, would have been uniquely positioned to both participate in and benefit from this trade. Holmes was known to be skilled at dissecting bodies, a practice that served him well in his fraudulent and murderous activities. His knowledge of human anatomy and surgical skills contributed to the ease with which he disposed of bodies in his hotel and covered up his crimes.
Damn. Now, I've heard before a bit of controversy around the H.H. Holmes lore, if you will. Do you know anything about that? Some people say he wasn't into all this or he didn't kill all these people. And then some people, say, oh, well, he did and had this elaborate, kind of Rube Goldberg of caverns and chutes and ways to dispose of bodies. So it's really a crazy story.
Well, the Murder Castle was a 3-story hotel that Holmes designed with a labyrinth interior, complete with soundproof rooms, secret passageways, and trapdoors. The building included a basement equipped with a dissecting table, vats of acid, lime pits, and a crematorium. These facilities enabled Holmes to dispose of bodies without detection and sell skeletal remains. Holmes is said to have sold complete skeletons to medical schools and private collectors. As we mentioned before, skeletons were in high demand during the late 19th century for academic purposes. And, of course, with his background, he was able to, make it happen.
Damn.
And although Holmes' direct participation in grave robbing isn't as well documented as his other crimes, his knowledge and behavior align with the practices of resurrectionists of the time. Holmes may have employed grave robbing or body snatching as a way to obtain bodies that he needed for these scams. Holmes utilized quicklime and vats of acid to dissolve flesh and expedite the decomposition of bodies. This method allowed him to prepare skeletons for sale or dispose of the remains with little trace. Holmes would sometimes use body doubles in his fraudulent schemes where he reported the deaths of those policyholders. So, of course, he needs to have certain ways of maybe concealing their identity.
Oh, God. It's very gruesome work, right? The whole thing.
Another grave robber that should be on your true crime radar, Dylan, is Ed Gein, also known as the Butcher of Plainfield, a notorious criminal in the late 1950s. His activities and the subsequent discovery of what he did with the remains of his victims and bodies he exhumed inspired numerous fictionalized portrayals, not only in horror literature, but in film, including characters like Norman Bates from Psycho, Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs.
Dude, all these are big names in horror.
Yeah.
Right?
So Ed Gein, man, he's a pop culture icon.
And he was much more low tech even though this was many years later. Than like H.H. Holmes, you know what I'm saying? I think his knowledge, his methods, and everything were very low tech and even more gruesome in my mind.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Ed, because this will probably be the only time you ever hear Mountain Murders give you a rundown on Ed Gein. Ed Gein was born in 1906 in La Crosse County, Wisconsin. He had a difficult upbringing marked by an abusive and alcoholic father and a domineering, fanatically religious mother, Augusta, who instilled in him a deep-seated fear and hatred of women, sexuality, and sin. This complicated relationship with his mother played a significant role in his shaping just of his psychological state and some of his criminal behavior. Again, he's got mommy issues.
Well, dude, so you got a domineering mother who's cruel and who makes you feel dirty about sex and, even thinking about having a relationship with women. I mean, this is the worst kind of combination there can be.
After After the deaths of his parents and older brother, Geen became increasingly isolated and spent most of his time alone on the family farm near Plainfield. His isolation and mental instability led him to develop a morbid fascination with death and the human body. Now, in the years before his arrest, Geen admitted to making nocturnal visits to local cemeteries to exhume recently buried bodies. He targeted graves of middle-aged women who resembled his deceased mother. Reports indicate that he would select graves from obituaries, sometimes attending the burials to ensure that he was digging up the correct person. Geen claimed he never dug up entire graves. Instead, he would open the graves in the middle of the night, remove the body or parts from it, and then recover the grave to make it look undisturbed. His familiarity with the cemetery and the methods he used enabled him to carry out these activities without detection.
So nobody was any of the wiser, right?
Geen stated that his grave robbing activities were driven by his desire to create a woman suit, so he would become his mother and experience what it felt to be like her. This desire stemmed from his complex love-hate relationship with Augusta, which involved both reverence and resentment.
I mean, what do you even say to that?
Put the lotion in the basket.
He's making a woman suit so he can be closer to his mother.
See, you don't need a woman suit. You just looked really pretty in your dress last night.
Oh, yeah?
You were a beautiful Barbie. Pink is your color. You don't need a woman suit.
This blue-collar Barbie.
You're really pretty.
He's stupid. Now, what would you do if you were dating someone and then you realized they were indeed making a woman suit and that they wanted your part of you to be incorporated into said suit?
Well, first of all, I would tell them they had very bad taste.
Honey, you'd be great in the parts of the suit.
What are they looking for? Like a big gut?
Baby.
You looking for my big gut? What you looking at my gut for?
They would have your little soft hair on it. On top.
Are they gonna glue my little soft hair on their chest?
Yeah. Yeah.
They want a lady with soft, baby fine chest hair.
That's what he's been looking for.
Oh. Are you trying to tell me something?
No, I don't have a woman.
Okay, well, I was going to say, well, first of all, why would I be dating someone? I'm married to you.
Well,
as unfortunate as that is.
It's a hypothetical.
Well, I would leave, Dylan. Okay? I don't want to be the victim of a butchering. And not anytime soon.
Okay, that's reasonable.
Okay, maybe catch me on a bad day.
But go ahead and butcher me. I don't care.
Yeah, catch me on a bad day when I'm feeling down and out.
Like a down Wednesday.
Yeah. Now, the most horrifying aspect of Ed Gein's crimes was what he did with the exhumed bodies. He used the skin and bones of the corpses to create various objects and decorations. Investigators who searched his home discovered human skin was used to create masks, which Gein would sometimes wear, and a full woman suit fashioned out of body parts. Skulls were turned into bowls, and human skin was used to upholster chairs and make lampshades. He also crafted belts made from human nipples and a corset made from a woman's torso.
Jesus.
Gein kept preserved heads, organs, and other parts in various states, including a collection of noses and preserved female genitalia. Some items were found in boxes, and others were used to display just around his home. This is before he was able to purchase the Live, Laugh, Love sign.
So he's got
for the door.
He's got a nipple sign up there talking about welcome.
Well, he has to. He's trying to decorate.
Look, I've heard this 100 times, right? It's one of the reasons we typically don't do the top 10, true crime heavy hitters, if you will. We've covered a couple. Heather did a very, very amazing three-part series on Charles Manson. I learned a lot of new stuff. But no matter how many times I hear Ed Gein,
nipple belt,
and what he did with the body parts and what he was living in this house and the way they describe just the freaking smell alone, it's freaking disgusting.
It makes my stomach churn.
It's horrible. Just the what?
A lot. I'm not going to say a bit. A lot. It's pretty fucking gruesome.
This is ghoulish. This is horrible. This is next level depravity.
That's why we had to talk about him.
And mental illness and all that mixed in together. I mean, I almost feel bad. In ways, I feel bad for Ed Gein that he had felt that, went this far off the deep end and was kind of, lost to himself.
Well, while Gein's actions pointed to deep psychological disturbances, authorities found no evidence of cannibalism, and Gein denied engaging in necrophilia, although the sheer nature of his behavior implied a deeply disturbed mind. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia and found mentally incompetent at the time of his arrest. Psychologists concluded that Gein's grave robbing and later murders were fueled by his inability to cope with his mother's death and his descent into psychosis. His grave robbing was not motivated by financial gain or typical criminal objectives, but by his compulsion to create a surrogate presence for his mother and fulfill his twisted desires. While Gein began his crimes by robbing graves, he eventually escalated to murder. He was charged with killing 2 women, Bernice Worden and Mary Hogan. Worden's body was found in Gein's home, decapitated and hung upside down like a deer, with evidence suggesting that she had been gutted.
Jeez.
Gein's activities were uncovered in 1957 when police investigating the disappearance of Bernice Worden searched his home. The gruesome findings shocked the small community of Plainfield, as you can imagine, and the wider world. Body parts, skin, and items made from these human remains filled his house, revealing the full extent of Gein's grave robbing and killing. So he was finally arrested in November of 1957 and charged with first-degree murder. He was declared unfit for trial and sent to a mental institution. In 1968, he was deemed competent to stand trial and was convicted of the murder of Bernice Worden, but was also found to be legally insane. He spent the remainder of his life in psychiatric institutions and died in 1984.
Damn.
You know, when I think about Ed Gein, I'm like, he died in 1984. Like, that wasn't so long ago.
No, I didn't realize
that he was alive in during our lifetime.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild.
I didn't realize that, honestly. And not only did he, not only was he an inspiration for multiple characters in horror, I would argue, like even the whole house set up in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I think you could attribute that back to descriptions of Gein's house.
Yeah, we just watched that last night.
Classic.
The original.
Yeah.
Which is one of my favorite horror movies, all-time horror movies. And you're absolutely right. That house, there are like bones everywhere, even just chicken bones, feathers.
Yeah.
Which is very strange. The grandpa who's on death's door is hanging out upstairs in this floral wallpapered room, kind of.
Yeah.
With the dead great-grandmother. Like, I think that's supposed to be grandpa's mom. And she's sort of...
mummified.
Like Mrs. Bates or something.
Right.
Norma Bates. Yeah, I mean, it's just a very, very weird movie.
It's very weird. Very low budget. But no matter how many times I watch it, it's unsettling.
It's so raw.
It's just...
And gritty.
Creeps you out.
It really does. That's why I love it. It's my favorite.
Yeah.
Because it's terrifying to me.
Oh, sorry. All right. Well, thank you. Is that all the grave robbing we're going to do today?
Well, I mean, did you want to talk about more grave robbing, Dylan?
Do you have more?
No.
No, I think you covered the bases pretty well there.
Well, I thought we had to mention Holmes and Gein because, again,
they're notorious.
2 of the most famous grave robbers.
Yeah.
Especially in the annals of true crime.
Well, unfortunately, that is it for the spooky season this year. Gosh, it was kind of a weird month, given natural disasters and everything. But we did enjoy talking about those things.
You know what's got me tripping up about spooky season?
What?
It's still like 80 degrees outside where we live.
I know.
Like yesterday, Halloween, and I'm like hot and sweating and burning up. And I'm like, bro, it's Halloween. Shouldn't it be cold, chilly? Shouldn't I have a fall evening?
This is supposed to be hoodie season.
Instead of, sweat trickling down the small of my back while I walk my dog because it's 90 degrees outside. I mean, come on, dude.
Us big guys look forward to this time of year where we can finally just get the big comfy hoodie out And not just guys, the gals too.
Well, I was going to say it's chunky girls, man.
Everybody.
Okay, I don't want my thighs rubbing together.
Everybody's looking forward to the jogging pants and the hoodies and all that stuff.
I want my leggings.
Some coffee, some hot ciders,
Some pumpkin spice.
some pumpkin spice, and here it is, freaking 80 degrees.
Yeah, I know.
outside.
I was going to say, when I've gotten a pumpkin spice latte, because I do love them, Dylan.
You can't even enjoy
It's
it.
hard to enjoy a pumpkin latte when it's freaking hot as July outside. So there's that.
All right.
Now that I've complained a little bit, I just wanted you to know the reason I don't sleep is zombies.
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 Until next time, we hope this podcast finds you happy, fed, and safe.
Thanks, Mama.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mama Dylan.
No, we do appreciate all our listeners so much. You're very special to us. All our patrons who support us directly, you're special as well.
Oh my gosh, you're going to bring a tear to my eye.
And no, we just keep chucking along. I know we our schedule gets weird here and there, but we are trying. We try. I don't know what to say. Life sucks. We're not full-time podcaster. We never made it over that hump.
Just
we do appreciate everything.
Take me, H.H. Holmes.
But unfortunately, that's what happens when you can't just be a podcaster.
Yeah, I think people know that.
And we appreciate you, though. Thank
we
you.
do. And if you would like to support the show, Patreon is a great way to do that. Patreon.com/Mountain Murders Podcast. And of course, each episode is ad-free over at Patreon. So if you listen on the Patreon app, don't get all the commercials, don't get all the ads, and you're helping us keep the show going.
Yeah, and plus there's a ton of bonus.
We do have a lot of bonus content. We
Yeah.
have to get some bonus content out for our folks over there, which we plan to do, some new episodes. Dylan, tell them about the merch store.
And there's the incredible merch store.
We're going to drop a link.
Heather's going to drop a link. Those are all her designs over there. They're incredible. Very good prices, too.
Some good price points.
Kept the price points low.
And now that, I'm saying it should be cold wherever you are. Sure as hell ain't cold here. But if you're looking for like a good, like a warm hoodie.
Yeah.
Some long sleeve tees.
Or a nice coffee mug.
Yeah. So you can enjoy your pumpkin spice latte when it's not 80 degrees outside.
When it's actually cold.
Yeah. Mountain Murders. We got a great merch store. I will drop a link in today's show notes. You should just be able to click that link and it should take you to the store. Lots of cute stuff, Dylan.
So amazing.
Stuff for everybody.
There is stuff for everybody.
Stuff for the whole family. Stuff for Ed Gein.
Just in time for Christmas.
Unfortunately, I will say we don't have nipple belts. Those are sold out.
Yeah.
No nipple belts.
Just in time for the holiday seasons, you can get some Mountain Murders merch.
But Dylan does have, perfect for football season, some scrotum stadium seat covers.
Okay.
Okay.
All
Bye,
right.
Dylan.
Bye.